Everybody. I know I can't see you guys. Hopefully you can see me in my slides. Thank you so much for having me in your living rooms today. I hope everybody is being safe. I know it's getting very tiresome with these masks, but it's still pretty important that we're wearing them. So anyway, thanks again for having me. Today I wanted to talk about nutrition for hair, skin, and nails. You know, I had seen this coworker the other day. She had the most beautiful, luscious hair. I'm telling you, she was walking in front of me. She had this long black hair, and it was so shiny. It was just gorgeous. So I'm hoping to instill some of my own advice, so maybe my hair can get kind of like that. I don't know if I can get rid of my gray though. Anyway, as always, if you have any questions as we're going through it, just, put your question in the chat and I'll keep going back to see if there's a question. So we're going to talk about what kind of nutrients are necessary for healthy skin and nails. You know, there are so many products that you can use on your hair, your skin, etc. It's probably a multi-billion-dollar industry, but quite frankly, it all has to do with the inside. It has to do with how you're nourishing your body and what kinds of nutrients you're actually giving yourself. So let's talk about how we can do that. You know, a good sign of health is actually your hair, skin, and nails. And the one thing I do as a nutritionist is I do something called a nutrition-focused physical exam. So when you go to the doctor's office, nurses are doing certain things, doctors are doing certain things, and nutritionists will as well. And what we're looking for is perhaps a nutrition deficiency that might be manifesting on the outside, because you'd be surprised if you have a deficiency in a vitamin over time, you're going to start developing skin issues. You might develop bruising. Your hair might start to shed or even to fall out. Your skin is going to have a different pallor to it. Even nails. I remember I had a patient, when she showed me her nails, they were concave. It was really quite interesting. It's called koilankia, and that was actually an iron deficiency. So I could tell just from the outside that she had deficiencies on the inside. So when you look at, say, your skin, we're looking at what it looks like, we're looking at the appearance, we're looking to see if there's any dark circles or rings around the neck. That's actually a type of insulin resistance. So if I had seen that on somebody, that would make me think that they have some sort of diabetes or pre-diabetes. If they have really dry skin, that could indicate a vitamin A deficiency or a vitamin E deficiency. There's another condition called follicular hyperkeratosis, and that's when you look at the skin and it's almost like you've got these permanent goosebumps that never go away, and that's actually a vitamin A deficiency. When you look at the nails, you're looking at the shape, you're looking if they're growing properly, you're looking at the nail beds, and then of course the hair, you're looking at the is it shedding, is it shiny, is it gray like mine? You're looking at thinning. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about, how we can make it better. So let's talk about hair first. You know, we are so conscious of our hair, and for understandable reasons, because this is the first thing that we see, the face and the hair, and that is actually one of the most devastating things for people that are going through cancer treatments when they start losing their hair, or certain surgeries where their hair starts to come out. I actually have some patients that will choose not to do surgery, even though it's a life-saving surgery, just because they know it's going to affect their hair. But hair loss is common, and close to 50% of men and women are affected by some sort of pattern hair loss by the age of 50. So age has an effect. Any kind of dramatic weight loss. So if you're doing, you know, even I had a patient that she lost about 20 pounds, and just with that 20 pounds, she was really starting to shed her hair. If you're going through any kind of, oh, this is interesting. There's some marks on my slides. Okay, if you're going through any kind of hormonal imbalance, like pregnancy or menopause, or for you men out there, if you're starting to lose testosterone, your thyroid gland, all of those imbalances can also affect the hair. If you're under stress, let me tell you, we're under stress now. Naturally, stress is going to shed the hair. Certain malabsorptive diseases. So if you have like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, anything that has to do with the gut, the stomach, the intestines, well, if you've got issues with that, then you might not be necessarily absorbing all of the nutrients that you need. And certain medications and cancer treatments can also affect the hair. So I'm just going to show you some pictures. Is this your hair? Okay, this looks like me in the morning, actually. Pretty frizzy, pretty dry, or maybe you're having different scattered baldness. Maybe, as you can see here, there's some seborrhea and some dandruff here. Again, some spotting balding, some dry ends, very dry hair. This is called diffuse alopecia, meaning he's losing hair diffusely across his head. This is something that I would be really interested in seeing as a nutritionist, because this is corkscrew hair on somebody's arm, but you can also see these little dots here, which are actually blood. This is capillaries. So this actually indicates to me that this person has a vitamin C deficiency. And then when you kind of look at the magnification of hair, is it corkscrew twisted like that? Or again, this looks like some pattern baldness here. Or, oh my goodness, that would be a lot of hair coming out. Or is your hair gray? Now, when I took this picture off the internet, something tells me she purposely made her hair look like this. But you know what's interesting about hair, skin, and nails is that it actually grows in a cycle. So we're not growing hair every single day. We're growing it in cycles, and the cycle is called the anagen cycle. So that's the phase. Did you ever notice, like, sometimes some seasons, sometimes your hair is growing really fast, and other times it's like, oh my gosh, my hair's not growing at all. And that's just because it might be in the telogen phase or the resting phase. The problem is that if you were getting surgery or cancer treatments or anything like that, and your hair or different parts of your hair were in the telogen phase or the resting phase, that would mean that you're really not in the active growth phase. So when you shed your hair, it would be looking like it's shedding a lot. So there's nothing you can really do to expedite some of these hair cycles. You can't just say, okay, body, let's move into the anagen phase. It's, you know, the hair will grow in these certain phases, and there is a time and duration of each phase. That's just another picture of it. And the same thing with the nails as well. And again, nails and hair and skin, they're all related because it's part of the epidermis and, you know, part of the skin system. And you've got follicles in the nail bed. So your nail actually grows from the bottom up, just like hair is actually going to grow from inside out. And over here, these are follicles. This is where all the living cells are down here. And as you can see, these are blood vessels that are going to nourish the hair follicle with nutrients and oxygen and water. And that's what nourishes it to grow. And the same thing with the nail here in the cuticle area. And then when you look at skin, our skin is several layers, and the you know, innermost layer again is the closest to the blood supply. So again, your skin is growing from the inside out. As you look at the outer layers of the skin, the epidermis, those areas are actually dead. So they slough off every single day. So this is why we're regenerating our skin. So nutritional imbalances, either a deficiency or an excess, can impact both. And I like to always mention that, especially to my clients and my patients, because sometimes more isn't better. And I'm going to actually mention some of these vitamins and minerals. You know, there are lots of different supplements that we can get that promote hair growth and shiny hair and skin and nails, but they might actually have some ingredients in them that if you overdose on them, that could actually cause an issue. So the nutrients that are actually nourishing to the hair, skin, and nails would be vitamin A, which makes sense, right? Because that's actually a vitamin needed for good skin, good mucous membranes. Vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin C, folic acid, biotin, and even niacin, which is a B vitamin. And then there are even certain minerals that we need to get to help our hair, skin, and nails, like iron, zinc, selenium, and copper. And I know we're going to be talking about zinc in a couple minutes, but I didn't want to forget to say this. I know that during COVID, a lot of people are taking some extra zinc just because they think that that's improving their immune system and, you know, helping them prevent COVID. Just remember that zinc is a mineral. And if you overdo zinc, it can have toxic effects, and it can actually affect your copper and your iron. The other thing that we need is our macros. So our macronutrients that help our hair, skin, and nails are protein, because remember, protein is needed by every single structure of the body for growth and for function. And you also need fats, fatty acids. I'm telling you, that colleague of mine that had that beautiful shiny hair, she probably gets some really good fatty acids in her diet. And actually, when I did approach her, because I just had to, her hair was so beautiful, she said that she has a really good diet of avocados, and avocados are very good in fatty acids. So let's just talk about vitamin A first. Vitamin A, how does it actually affect hair and skin and nails? Well, vitamin A has been shown to activate something called the follicle stem cells. And the follicle is where the hair grows and where the nail grows. But what's really interesting is that if you all went out and bought a vitamin A supplement and you took too much of it, your hair would start to fall out because it actually could have toxic effects. Vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin that when you take it, it will go to the liver and store. And when your body needs it, it'll start going to the liver to actually activate it, and then you carry it through your blood and you use it. But that's why you don't want to overdo vitamin A in a supplement. If you are taking a multivitamin, most multivitamins have enough to meet 100% of the RDA, but they don't go over that. So vitamin A helps with growth of hair, skin, and nails. It maintains healthy epithelial tissues and skin, and it also helps with the mucous membrane. So I think a few weeks ago we talked about, how to keep your immune system strong, and vitamin A actually does that as well. And remember that your skin is actually the line of defense against the environment. So if we can keep our skin healthy, that would be a great thing. Just wanted to show you here our dietary reference intakes for my age group. I'm in this age group. We don't need that much. We only need about 500 micrograms, and men need a little bit more. And as you can see, there is an upper limit that has been established by the regulating body here, so we shouldn't be overdoing it. What I always like to promote, of course, is beyond supplements. I'd rather you eat food that contains vitamin A, just because it is very rare that you're going to overdose on a food that has too much of it. And in addition, when you're eating food, you're going to get the interactions of everything else that might be in that particular food. Now, what's really fascinating about vitamin A is it actually comes in two forms. It comes in a preformed vitamin A that you can find in foods like liver and kidney. I don't know too many people that eat kidney, but some people do. It's found in eggs and it's found in dairy. But the majority of how we get vitamin A is through carotenoids. And you probably heard of something called beta carotene. And beta carotene is a pigment that's found in fruits and vegetables, all those beautiful, brightly colored fruits and vegetables, the oranges and the orange color, the yellow color, the red color, the dark green color, all of that is beta carotene. And the body is just so fascinating that we can convert beta carotene to vitamin A. So that's why when you see a chart like this, as you can see, if you eat liver, it's very, very high in natural vitamin A. But if you eat carrots, it's pretty high in beta carotene, and that's what you can convert to vitamin A. And that's why sometimes if you do a lot of juicing, I do know some of my clients that like to do some juicing, and I have one particular client that I'm thinking of that actually turned orange. Seriously, her skin, especially her palms, turned orange because she was eating or juicing way too many carrots. Now, it really wasn't a toxic level. Her body was able to, cleanse that out and convert some to vitamin A, but it just didn't look very appealing to her skin. So we've got the brightly colored fruits and vegetables that have lots of vitamin A. So I encourage you to add these in your diet, because then your body's going to take over and do the rest. So if you're eating your fresh fruits and vegetables, or even your frozen fruits and vegetables as well, because they still have vitamin A, don't think just because something's frozen or even canned, believe it or not, also has the beta carotene. I know canned fruits and vegetables get a bad rap, but quite honestly, they have high nutrition, just because some of these canned products, once the stuff is picked, they're canned almost right away. But just remember, I think the difference is, of course, you're going to get some preservatives, especially salt, when it comes to those vegetables. So you might have to do some low sodium or rinse it. Now, vitamin D has also made it into the spotlight because of COVID as well. And some people have been taking extra vitamin D for their immune system to, again, fight COVID. And that could be okay because most Americans are actually deficient in vitamin D. The only thing I would like to, again, caution us about, though, is vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. We do make it from the sun, even though we don't make it all that efficiently. And then it stores in the liver. So there are toxic amounts of vitamin D. So I don't want you to go to the pharmacy and get these high levels and start popping vitamin D without actually knowing what your results are. But getting back to the subject, what does vitamin D do for our skin, hair, and nails? It actually helps to form the keratin. Now, the keratin is that protective hardened layer that actually protects our hair, skin, and nails. And that's really good because you need that little bit of rigidity to actually help to protect against the environment. So that's what's really nice. And we do notice that people that have low vitamin D also have a lot of hair shedding. That's what telogen effluvium is. Telogen effluvium means that the hair cycle is stuck in that telogen phase and the hair is just not getting back to that growth phase. So it's really, really shedding a lot. And it's scary, especially when you're in the shower because everything gets magnified in the shower. And here you are washing your hair and, you know, strands and strands of hair are coming out. So vitamin D is not just good for our immune system, it's good for our blood, it's good for our skin, it's good for our hair, it's good for our immune system, and it's an immunomodulator. So it's a really, really great vitamin. But again, we don't need too much. There is an upper limit established, 100 micrograms. So I'd rather you eat it. Okay, the problem with vitamin D sources is that there isn't too many natural sources of vitamin D in our food. Eggs, okay, so think about it. If you eat eggs, you're killing two birds with one stone, no pun intended, because you're going to get vitamin A and you're going to get vitamin D. If you're having salmon, those are good omega-3s as well. Shiitake mushrooms, my favorite mushroom. A lot of the fortified foods. So if you're eating oatmeal and cereal and things like that, bread, a lot of the grain products are actually enriched with vitamin D. And this is just another example to show you that we really could get good sources of vitamin D from our food, especially if you do eat salmon. 3 ounces has approximately 530 IUs, which is about 13.3 micrograms. And then as you can see here, milk, if you're a milk drinker. Some of the orange juices are also being fortified with vitamin D just to compensate for those of us that don't drink milk, and then eggs. Now, vitamin E, I always get a kick out of vitamin E because I know of a lot of people, they'll buy creams that have vitamin E, or they'll actually buy the vitamin E, even the little the little squishy things, and then you poke it and then the oil comes out and people are putting that on the skin, and it kind of makes me laugh because it's really not going to stimulate any kind of growth on the outside if you're putting it on your skin. You actually have to eat vitamin E, and that's what would actually stimulate hair growth or actually make the skin and the nails very supple. So vitamin E is called tocopherol. That's just a fancy name for vitamin E. Again, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. So if you take too much of it, it stores in the liver, and then the body starts to reject it, and it's going to have the opposite effect. You'll start losing your hair. But vitamin E is a really powerful antioxidant. It's really good for your blood, especially if you tend to have blood clots. Some cardiologists will put their patients on vitamin E to prevent blood clotting. It's kind of similar to aspirin in that sense. It helps to reduce cancer, enhances immunity, and there is some research to show that it may even slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease, which is pretty interesting too. So again, we don't need too much of it, about 12 milligrams. There is an upper limit established. And what I mean by upper limit, it means that according to this regulatory body, we really should not be taking more than this per day, because then it can have toxic levels. So again, let's eat it. Okay, so where is vitamin E found? Good sources of vitamin E are anything that gives you an oil or is oily. So if you're thinking about like nuts and seeds, they're very oily. If you actually use oil like olive oil, canola oil, those are all really good sources of vitamin E. Liver, of course, has vitamin E. Egg yolks, so that's another good reason to eat egg yolks. Think about it. If you're eating egg yolks, you're getting vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. So you're getting the fat-soluble vitamins. This is just a nice example. Wheat germ oil is so good for us. And, you know, even if you're not doing the oil, you're actually doing the wheat germ, go for it. It has really good source of vitamin E. Put it on your cereal, put it in your yogurt, put it in your smoothie. It's just really good and it has that nutty flavor. Almonds, 1 ounce. Now, I specifically put 1 ounce here because remember, that's a serving size. So don't go crazy with the almonds because then you're going to get too much fat and too many calories. And don't forget the seeds. I know seeds are sometimes overlooked, but sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, you know, those are really, really good sources of vitamin E. It's also a good source of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids as well. Peanut butter, corn oil, but look at this, even spinach and broccoli have some vitamin E. Some fruits have vitamin E as well. So again, just another reason to increase that fruit and vegetable and whole grains, because then you can get some good nourishment. Now, vitamin C, I just want to mention vitamin C because it's actually one of two most abused vitamins on the market. You have to remember that vitamin C is called ascorbic acid. So when you look at the chemical formula of vitamin C, it is considered an acid. And why is that significant? Well, if you have GERD or reflux, or you tend to have ulcers, stomach ulcers, or if you have irritable bowel, or if you have kidney stones or even risk of kidney stones, overdoing vitamin C is not doing you a favor. Okay, and what's interesting is that the body really only absorbs about 250 milligrams per day. So if you're taking 1,000 and 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you're really overtaxing your system to get rid of the extra. So I don't recommend overdoing vitamin C. Vitamin C is an important vitamin, though. It is. It is a antioxidant as well. In terms of the skin, hair, and nails, it helps to make something called collagen. And collagen is a protein that gives the hair and the skin some strength. There's a lot of advertisement for us to be drinking collagen or taking collagen to help to prevent wrinkles or that crepey skin or to help hair growth. It's not going to hurt you. You can take the collagen, but I got to tell you, if you're taking collagen and you don't have enough vitamin C, it's really not going to work. Deficiency in that vitamin C can cause that follicular hyperkeratosis and even that corkscrew hair that I showed you in that other picture of that person with the funny looking hair on the arms, and also something called the perifollicular hemorrhage. That's what those little dots were. That was, you know, little blood vessels that were bursting. It is needed for energy and metabolism as well. So vitamin C is used for lots of different things. Now look at this, the dietary reference intake is only 75 milligrams per day and 90 milligrams for men, and there is actually an upper limit established for vitamin C, and that's at 2,000 milligrams per day. So I'm really, really cautious about taking too much vitamin C. Again, I work with a surgical population, and if you have surgery on your stomach and you're taking these high doses of vitamin C, that could actually give you a stomach ache. And if you've got GERD or reflux, you got to be careful. So let's not overdo the vitamin C in a supplement. So let's have food. I'm the food person. So good sources of vitamin C. We know that the citrus fruits contain good sources of vitamin C. We already know that. But don't forget there are other fruits and vegetables that have really good sources of vitamin C, like tomatoes, even potatoes. I know potatoes get such a bad rap, but let me tell you, potatoes can be very healthy. It's just that we put lots of unhealthy stuff on it. Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, peppers, strawberries, cabbage, spinach, kiwi fruit. There's a picture here of kiwi fruit. Really good sources of vitamin C. This is just another chart to show you. Even chili peppers, if you're into this hot chili pepper. I mean, look at this, 242 milligrams. That's pretty good in 100 grams of chili peppers. Whew, that would give me a stomach ache. Guava, peppers. Okay. Oh, look at this, a Snickers marathon bar. Okay, that must have been fortified. Lemons, lychee. So again, most of this, of course, would be the fresh fruits and vegetables contain vitamin C. Most meats and proteins are not a good source of vitamin C, and that's why it really is important to get some sort of plant material in your diet. I have some patients, seriously, they don't eat any vegetables. I think I have one patient, the only vegetable she eats is lettuce. That's it. So I'm having her eat lettuce almost every day. Now, folic acid is a really important vitamin for so many reasons, not just for your healthy hair, skin, and nails. What it will do is it helps to promote that healthy blood supply that's needed for the growth of your hair, skin, and nails, but it's also necessary for healthy blood. So if you don't get enough folic acid, you could actually have a condition called anemia. Now, anemia is usually related to iron, but it's not just iron that could cause anemia. It could be a folic acid deficiency. And of course, if you have any of your relatives, or if you're planning pregnancy, or your family's planning pregnancy, women are always very cautious to take folic acid, because that's going to prevent birth defects in that developing baby, especially something called spina bifida, which would be a defect in the neural tube, or the spine, or the brain. A lot of cardiologists like to put their patients on folic acid because it also helps to reduce cardiovascular disease. And the way it does that is it helps to lower a byproduct of metabolism called homocysteine. So folic acid, again, it's an excellent, excellent vitamin. You don't need that much of it. So if you are taking a multivitamin, it probably has about 400 micrograms. You do not want to overdo folic acid though. So even though folic acid is a water-soluble vitamin, if you overdo it and take more than 1,000 micrograms per day, that'll actually interfere with your vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 is a really important vitamin too. It doesn't have anything to do with your hair, skin, and nails, but vitamin B12 is necessary for blood and for your nerve tissue. So if you're taking too much folic acid and you end up with a B12 deficiency, that's going to be pretty detrimental. So again, I always look at food. Good sources of folic acid would be, again, the fresh fruits and vegetables, or fruits and vegetables. Any kind of animal proteins and milk are poor sources. So this is just another reason to put in some plants in your diet, and variety is really the key, because the more variety you can add, the more different nutrients you're actually getting. I don't know. I always put in this liver just because that seems to be on all these charts, but liver seems to really store a lot of vitamins and minerals. I think my issue with liver, though, is, think about what that organ is. It's a very metabolic organ that helps to filter the blood of that creature. So if that creature is taking, hormones or toxins, that kind of all goes through the liver. So if you do enjoy your liver, I would just do it sparingly. Don't do it that often, just because you might get fruit, vitamins and minerals from it, but it's you might be getting some other things you don't really want either. So maybe we can stick to our spinach and our black-eyed peas. Cereals, again, grain products are going to be fortified with folic acid. Asparagus, Brussels sprouts. I mean, all this is making me hungry. And here you go with the wheat germ again. I always love when we can cross-reference food because if you're taking wheat germ, you're getting folic acid and you're getting vitamin E. So, hey, kill two birds with one stone. Now, biotin, I wanted to mention too. Biotin is really advertised a lot for hair, skin, and nails. Biotin is called vitamin B7 or vitamin H. I hardly ever hear it that way unless it's kind of a marketing thing. Ooh, take this product as vitamin H. Meanwhile, everybody's like, well, what is vitamin H? So biotin actually serves as a cofactor of enzymes for hair growth. And it also plays a role to break down fatty acids and break down amino acids. It's good for DNA. But at one time, we thought that there was no toxicity to biotin, that you can just take whatever you wanted to take. And you don't need that much of it, only about 30 micrograms, very not much. But then newer research came out to say, even though there's no upper limit established, a lot of our endocrinologists were saying, oh, no, 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 don't overdo biotin, because biotin can actually interfere with your thyroid function. So if you already have hypothyroid or Graves' disease or Hashimoto's disease, or you're taking Synthroid or levothyroxine, you really got to be careful and not take too much biotin, because your endocrinologist is not going to be happy with you. And that's because your medicine is not going to work that well. So I always say do not exceed 5,000 to 10,000 micrograms, and take even less if you have existing thyroid issue. So just be careful with it. It's not an innocuous vitamin like we thought. So again, eat food. And biotin, believe it or not, is found in everything. It's found in animal products, it's found in grains, it's found in fruits and vegetables. So we can really get enough biotin from our food. So if, if you're really worried about your hair and you're like, well, I want to take a little extra biotin, okay, just start taking low doses, maybe 400 micrograms, less than 1,000. Start there. And then, of course, try to get your biotin tested. See if maybe your dermatologist can put in the order, especially if you're having hair issues or skin issues. See if they can put in the order for you to get your lab tested on biotin. Rarely is it ever tested, though. Oh, there we go with the liver again. Oh, but there we go with the egg and the salmon, and some of the nuts and the almonds and the broccoli, the avocado. So I guess my point is really, I don't think we should be taking a supplement of biotin. I think we have plenty of food sources that give you enough biotin. And what's really funny about biotin is I have some patients that are on biotin and they're growing hair, but in the wrong place. They, now they're complaining to me. They're like, Lil, oh my gosh, I'm getting hair on my chin. I'm getting hair on my lip. I'm not getting hair on my head. So it'd be very interesting to see if, that affects some people in different ways. Now, niacin is another B vitamin. It's actually called vitamin B3. And niacin deficiency actually leads to this disease called pellagra. And pellagra is dermatitis, so it manifests on the outside. I would always be able to identify if somebody had this type of deficiency disease. It also causes dementia, diarrhea, and hair loss. And it also makes you very photosensitive, which means if you go in the sun, you're very sensitive to it. Niacin is really important for the GI system as well. It's good for the cardiovascular system. So sometimes, again, cardiologists put their patients on levels of B3. Niacin is pretty cool because it can actually, we can make niacin from something called tryptophan. And tryptophan is an amino acid. So if you're eating protein, you're eating tryptophan, you're probably making your own niacin. And that's pretty cool because the human body doesn't make that many vitamins. So that's pretty cool, I think. You don't need that much, about 11 milligrams or 12 milligrams. There is an upper limit established for niacin. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called the niacin flush, but if you take too much niacin, it's almost like you're having this allergic reaction to it. And actually, some people are very allergic to it, and they get into this anaphylaxis, almost like they can't breathe. So you always want to double check with your doctor or your pharmacist before taking any extra vitamins, just to make sure that it's not contraindicated with your medication or even your health profile. So again, that's why I always like to promote food. If you're eating your animal proteins, even if you're not a red meat eater, that's okay. If you're eating fish, if you're eating chicken, you're getting niacin because you're getting tryptophan, so you can make niacin. Some of the fruits and vegetables, again, are going to have niacin, your legumes or your peanuts. Legumes are really, really good sources of B vitamins. So if you like your black beans or your chili beans, those are very good sources of niacin. So are mushrooms. A lot of people think, mushrooms, it's just a fungus. It doesn't give us that much nutrition, but it actually does. It gives us niacin, it gives us vitamin D, it gives us a lot of other chemicals that help us prevent cancer, which is pretty cool. Here we go again with that beef liver. Shiitake mushrooms, chicken breast, wheat bran. So as you can see, niacin is found in a lot of food sources, especially if you're not vegetarian. If you're eating meat, you're probably getting enough niacin. Now, moving from the vitamins to the minerals, we've got something called iron. Now, iron is extremely important. However, iron is actually the #1 cause of poisoning of kids in the United States. So if you are taking iron, I just always like to remind my patients and my clients, hey, if you've got grandkids or little kids around the house and you're taking gummy iron, you've really got to put it high up in a cabinet that they can't reach, because it's not candy. And, kids are going to get into it and eat too much of it, and then you can get iron poisoning. But iron actually regulates hair and nail follicles. In other words, it kind of dictates how much of the follicle is living for growth. Iron is also necessary for the blood supply. So if you have good blood supply, you're going to have good blood supply to support your organs, including your hair, skin, and nails. It oxygenates your body. Iron deficiency can actually lead to something called diffuse alopecia, which means that you've got spotting baldness in different parts of your head. But if you take too much iron and get poisoning, that's going to lead to hair loss, and it's called hemochromatosis. Now, depending upon your age and your diet, most of us don't need to take extra iron. If you're taking like a multivitamin, and it's not designed for a certain age group, then it has a low amount of iron, like 18 milligrams. But if you're taking an age-specific multivitamin, like say a Centrum Silver, because you're over 50, then they're going to take the iron out, because most people at that age, especially if we are postmenopausal, if we're women, we are not losing a lot of blood, right, monthly. So our body can kind of regenerate iron. What's really interesting about the body is that the iron source is found mainly in our red blood cells. And our red blood cells, they kind of die every 120 days. They have to replicate. But when they die, our body can recycle the iron. So if you keep taking extra iron and you really don't need it, you're going to put it into storage, and that storage could get way too high, and that's when it can become a problem. Hemochromatosis can be a big problem. So that's why when doctors test your blood, a lot of times they're testing something called the CBC, the complete blood count, and they're also testing your iron, and a lot of them are testing something called ferritin. The ferritin is how much iron your body is actually storing. I actually have some patients that have way too much iron storage. Their ferritin is through the roof. So in that case, the way we treat it is we have them donate blood. Because if you actually take the blood out of the body, then it can't regenerate, right? And it's going to start dipping into the stores to regenerate the iron in the blood cells, which is kind of cool. Iron is also needed for something called the Krebs cycle, for energy. So that's why sometimes if you do have something called anemia, if you have iron deficiency anemia, you're feeling really tired. Again, we don't need that much, 5 milligrams if you're a woman, 6 milligrams if you're a guy. Again, I'd rather just have food. Iron in food, though, comes in two forms. It comes either in something called the heme iron or the non-heme iron. So that's just fancy words, meaning the heme iron is iron that's found in animal products. The non-heme iron is iron that's found in plant products. So you might have heard, remember, Popeye, he likes his spinach and makes him nice and strong. Okay, he was probably eating a lot of spinach, but he probably wasn't absorbing that much iron from the spinach. That's one of the problems with the non-heme iron. It's not readily absorbable by the human body. So you might be eating lots of spinach, but unless you can make it into an absorbable iron, you're really not absorbing it. So the way you make it absorbable is you put some sort of acid on it. So just say you have this beautiful spinach salad. Well, maybe you want to put some balsamic vinegar on it, or maybe you might want to put some mandarin slices on it or some strawberry slices, because anything that has a vitamin C is ascorbic acid. So there you go. You can kill two birds with one stone. Get your vitamin C, get your ascorbic acid, make your iron more absorbable, because I would never want to dissuade somebody from eating vegetables, for sure. If you're eating animal products, you're eating iron in the form that the body readily absorbs. So you don't really have to make it all that fancy. So that's what this is all saying. So lentils, I love lentils. They have a lot of iron in them, but you would have to do the same thing. So if you're making this beautiful lentil soup, you know what, you're not really absorbing a lot of the iron from it. So maybe right at the end, just put a little bit of balsamic vinegar for a little bit of flavor and for absorbability. Unsweetened cocoa powder, again, it's good with iron, but you're not really absorbing it. So let's see, what can we put with this? All right, so maybe you can have some chocolate covered strawberries. Yeah, that sounds good. And just dust them in that unsweetened cocoa powder. And that's how you can make this more absorbable. Pumpkin seeds, you know, put that in some dessert or even put it in yogurt, because the acidity of yogurt actually would help to make the iron more absorbable. So the point is, you just have to play around with your vegetables in order to get your iron absorbed. This is just some other charts to show you. Iron is really readily available in the animal products. So let's see, if you like your clams on the half shell, you're getting enough iron. Oh, beef liver again, but we're going to ignore that. Okay, let's see. Quail eggs. I don't know how many people eat quail eggs, but there we go. Shrimp. Okay. Now, copper is really interesting too. And copper is always, you know, we don't really give a lot of attention to copper, but copper is needed for collagen formation, just like vitamin C. And collagen, again, is that protein that helps give the strength to your hair, skin, and nails. Copper also works with iron. So they work hand in hand. So if you have too much iron, you're probably not getting enough copper. But copper and iron work together to make red blood cells. And copper also helps with the formation of something called melanin. And the lack of melanin can lead to premature gray. Trust me, I tested my copper. I've got normal copper levels and I still have gray hair. That just must be a genetic thing. Copper helps iron to absorb. Copper helps with your blood vessels. It's an antioxidant. It's really, really good for us. But I don't want you to go to the store and buy a copper supplement, because that can actually be very toxic. The one thing I would like to mention, though, just because of COVID, I know, again, a lot of people are taking zinc. And what's interesting about zinc is that if you take levels of zinc and you don't have enough copper, you could actually become deficient in copper. And I actually do have a client, and that's exactly what happened to her. She was becoming very anemic, but she wasn't losing blood, and we knew she didn't need iron. She's about 72 years old, so we knew, look, it's not an iron issue. So of course, being a nutritionist, I said, you know what, we need to test her copper. She's taking a lot of zinc because of COVID, and that's exactly what happened. She was actually copper deficient. So we're able to supplement. You don't need a lot, and there is an upper limit established at 10,000. So this is just the general requirement. If you are taking extra zinc, the requirement is to take 1 to 2 milligrams of copper for every 15 to 30 milligrams of zinc. So what I would do, just to feel better about it, is check your multivitamin. A lot of the multivitamins, if you are taking one, already have copper. And if you're not taking a multivitamin, but you are taking zinc, why don't you just eat food that has copper? Okay, so if you're going to take any kind of supplements, you always want to make sure you talk to your doctor about it first. So what is a good source of copper? Well, if you like seafood, especially some of the shellfish like the crab, Alaskan king crabs. I haven't had that in a long time. Your mushrooms, soybeans, if you like that, a lot of your legumes. So what's really wonderful about food is that if you get a variety of food, you're going to get cross-referencing of nutrients, you know, so lentils, you know, you're going to get your iron, you're going to get your copper. Now, zinc, what does it do for your hair? We know that zinc is good for the immune system, and that's why people are taking it to fight COVID, but it's also needed to regulate the growth of the hair, of the follicle. So again, that's where the growth of hair and skin and nails begin, at the follicle. So if you can, you know, enhance the follicles, technically you'll enhance the growth. A deficiency can cause that really brittle, dry hair, and you can almost see that in somebody's hair. It almost looks like, you know, God forbid you light a match, it's going to go poof and just burn off. It's just so brittle. And it also, a deficiency can lead to that telogen effluvium again, where you're just stuck in that stage of non-growth. Zinc helps the immune system, it helps DNA, it helps with wound healing, and that's really interesting too. If you have wounds, like if you had surgery, or God forbid you had a bed sore or anything like that, extra zinc actually helps the skin to heal. Zinc is needed for the sense of taste. That's something that a lot of times we forget about. I have a patient that actually had something called hypogeusia. And hypogeusia means she lost her sense of taste. And believe it or not, she had a zinc deficiency. Zinc is part of neurotransmitters, so it does a lot. Again, we don't need too much, 6.8 milligrams. I know we're overdoing it now. 8 foods that are high in zinc, pumpkin seeds. So look at that. If you do pumpkin seeds, you're also getting vitamin E, you're getting zinc, you're getting, what else are you getting? Copper, dark chocolate, garlic, sesame seeds, watermelon seeds. Okay, I don't know too many people that eat watermelon seeds, but hey, why not? Wheat germ, there you go, wheat germ again. So try to eat your zinc. I know it's very high in shellfish too. So if you do eat shellfish, it is high in zinc. Minerals are important for a healthy, to maintain the healthy hair and nails. And it does work together with vitamin C. It's a very powerful antioxidant. It is a mineral. There is some study to show that it can help actually reduce the viral load of HIV too, which is pretty interesting. It also helps the thyroid gland. And anytime you help the thyroid gland, that's always good for metabolism. We don't need that much. I know that selenium was really hot on the market, especially marketed to men that had prostate issues because the prostate really likes selenium. But remember, there is an upper limit. It's only 400 micrograms per day. So it can be very toxic at high levels. So eat food. And one of my most favorite foods to get selenium is Brazilian nuts. So if you're going to eat nuts, you might as well get bang for your buck. Include some Brazilian nuts in there. 5 nuts has 480 micrograms of selenium. It's pretty high, although they're very fatty, so they're very oily. Um, Chicken, beef, oh, these say the kidneys. Okay, let's pass that. Oysters, chicken liver. Some of us eat chicken liver. Your seafood, your salmon. So again, it's readily available in food. Rarely do I find people need a selenium in terms of a multivitamin. Let's not forget our proteins. Protein, again, is a macro, and proteins build every single structure of the human body. It also functions for hormones and neurotransmitters, it's energy, it's amino acids, actually. And this is just a nice chart to show you what is an amino acid, because sometimes you hear those two words interchangeable. The amino acids are the building blocks of protein. And you've got a certain group called the indispensable amino acids that we absolutely have to get from our food. And if we get enough indispensables, we can make the dispensables. So that's why they're all needed to create proteins, and each of these amino acids will make different types of proteins. That's why we need all of them. Now, where do you get the indispensable amino acids? You get them from proteins, from animal proteins. So if you're eating chicken, you're getting all of your indispensable amino acids. If you're eating salmon, you're getting them. The only time it becomes a challenge is if you're a vegan. A vegan is somebody that doesn't eat any animal product. And then in that case, we have to start supplementing with different indispensable amino acids. Because if you don't get the indispensables, you're going to start developing issues like hair loss. Your teeth are going to fall out because your gum tissue is receding. You're going to bruise really easy because your skin is ripping. So, and those are just minor issues. You can have major issues too if you don't get good protein. Now, how much protein should we get? Well, there are different guidelines. I always like to just give an introduction to it. I think when you look at the dietary reference intakes, I think it's a little bit low in my experience. Really, the dietary reference intakes for women say that we only need about 46 grams of protein a day. I find that a little bit low. So I usually start out some of my women between 60 to 80 grams per day. When you look at the diets of the American population, we're already eating a high protein diet. The average intake of protein for women is about 76 grams. So I'm kind of within there. Guys usually need more just because their muscle structure is different than ours. And this is just a cool way to estimate how much protein you're eating. For every ounce of cooked protein, you get approximately 7 grams. So if you have, a lobster tail in front of you or a pork chop, any edible portion of that, 1 ounce cooked, gives you approximately 7 grams. So maybe your goal for your protein on your plate should be about 3 to 4 ounces. because you don't want to really overdo protein either. If you overdo protein and get too much of it, that could lead to gout, that could lead to kidney stones, that could lead to weight gain. So, again, too much is not good. That's why there's always a range. So this is usually what I recommend for my men and women. Of course, this is just generalized. If you really wanted to be very specific, we could always calculate exactly how much you need. As a nutritionist, and doctors could probably do this too, is we're going to determine how much protein you specifically need, you as an individual person, based on your goals. So if I have somebody that was, losing a lot of hair, or they just had lots of wounds and we wanted to keep that skin healthy, or their nails are falling out, I'd probably give them more protein. So I might go up to about 1.2 grams per kilogram. If they didn't have any of those issues, I'd probably give you less, like 0.8 grams. So this is just a calculation to show that we can be fancy and actually custom tailor it. This is just an example of what 82 grams of protein would look like. You don't have to eat much to actually get 82 grams. So this is a 3-egg white omelet. And egg whites, it's like you have to put a lot in there to actually have a decent omelet. So 3-egg white omelet with 1 slice of low-fat cheddar cheese, and then 4 ounces of grilled chicken breast and a salad, and maybe some 4 ounces of filet mignon and asparagus and a baked potato. So this alone gives you approximately 82 grams of protein. So we don't have to eat a lot to get it. Unfortunately, we're eating a lot more than this, though. Now, the fatty acids are important for hair too. That's really what gives it its shine. I just love that. And numerous studies show that the omega-3s are so healthy for us anyway. It's healthy for our heart, but it also nourishes the hair and supports its growth. It also reduces inflammation, which actually helps to prevent hair loss. It's also good for our skin to keep it supple, and that's always good. And remember, there are different kinds of fatty acids, the omega-3s, the omega-6s, and the omega-9s. And remember that the omega-6s you don't want to overdo. Omega-6s in high amounts will actually have the opposite effect and cause heart problems. So the omega-3s, the omega-9s, those are good. I don't usually recommend taking fish oils unless you have to, or maybe the doctor is putting you on that because you have a heart issue. But remember, don't just run out and buy a fish oil, because they can be dangerous too. They thin your blood. So if you're taking aspirin, or you're taking Plavix, or you're taking vitamin E, all of that can actually thin your blood. And you don't want too thin blood, because then you could bleed, and that wouldn't be good either. This is just to show you we really don't need a lot of omega-3s for our health. So I'm telling you, if you're having a piece of salmon, if you're having some shrimp, if you're having some avocados, if you're having a serving of nuts, you really are getting your omega-3s for the day. And this is just giving you examples. Again, if you use any kind of oil, you're using olive oil to cook, you're using canola oil, maybe you're using some of the fancy nut oils like walnut oil, avocado oil, trust me, you're getting enough omega-3. Just remember that whenever you eat animal products, you're getting saturated fat too. So remember, there are other kinds of fats, the saturated fats and the trans fats. And I just like to remind you, saturated fat you want to limit. You can't go to 0, especially if you like animal products. But the trans fats, be really careful. Those are just really bad for us. Trans fats are man-made. They're usually found in a lot of processed foods. So always read your food label, because now they have to list trans fats on the food label. This is actually just a formula that I put together that I do recommend if people are actively losing their hair or having unhealthy hair. But again, always check with your doctor before starting anything. So this is just, one formula that I might have created for a patient of mine. So I actually this was somebody that I've been thinking about. A lady, I gave her about 80 grams of protein. We gave her 15 milligrams of zinc per day, but then I also made sure she was getting enough copper, and she was in her multivitamin. We increased her iron. She was actually, I think she was 34 years old, so she could do with the extra iron. Vitamin C, I didn't go above 500 milligrams. Again, remember, your body really only absorbs about 250, so I gave her 500 milligrams. I controlled the biotin. I gave 3,000 to 5,000. I wanted her to have a little bit of flax flaxseed oil. This could have been substituted with olive oil as well, or avocado oil, any kind of oil, but she was into flax seeds. So I recommended that she does 15 milliliters, which is only a couple of teaspoons. She was putting it in her salad. And the reason for that is she was getting some really good omega-3s from that. I recommended a B complex vitamin, 75 to 100 milligrams, and that's because with the B complex, she was getting vitamin B1. She was also getting vitamin B3, that niacin. B12 I recommended just because for her, she needed it, and she was actually, most of this was found in this multivitamin, which was good. And when I checked the multivitamin, it had 100% of the RDA for vitamin A and vitamin E, so we didn't need to recommend anything extra here. So this is just one formula that perhaps a nutritionist would recommend, but before going out and doing this, you would need some sort of evaluation. Let's see what your diet is like. Let's see what your medications are like. You know, I would much rather her, you know, she eat this stuff, but this particular patient that I'm thinking about, she had surgery, so she wasn't able to eat a lot. So that was one reason why we had to supplement. But I just wanted to show you the example. The top 10 foods for healthy hair, skin, and nails then, fatty fish. If you're into your seafood, your salmon, your sardines, your mackerel, anything that's fatty, a fatty fish is a good fat, right? It's the omega-3, it's the fish oil, so that's going to be good for the omega-3s and for the proteins. Whole eggs. I know whole eggs get a bad rap, but remember, if you have high cholesterol, even the American Heart Association says you can still have one whole egg a day. And remember, if you're eating a whole egg, you're getting zinc, you're getting selenium, you're getting vitamin A, vitamin D, you're getting lots of vitamins. Avocados, I love them just from that person's hair. I was just so excited about it. She gets a lot of uh, uh, folic acid, and she was getting omega-3s. Sweet potatoes, beautiful thing. Sweet potatoes have a lot of beta carotene. Beta carotene gets converted to vitamin A. Same thing with spinach. Oysters, if you're into shellfish and you decided, all right, I'm going to choose either oysters or clams. The oysters are actually a little bit healthier for the hair, skin, and nails just because they're very high in zinc. But I do want to put a disclaimer here. I do not want you to do a raw oyster. Raw oysters make me very nervous as a nutritionist because remember, we have very polluted waters, and oysters carry this bacteria called Vibrio vulnificus, and it can be deadly. So I'm really not promoting any raw oysters. Poultry, if you're into your chicken, again, it's a very good protein. It's very lean. It's got all the vitamins and minerals you need. If you're going to do fruit, I think berries are one of the best just because they're very high in vitamin C and folic acid and vitamin A. Kiwi fruit, again, high in vitamin C. And your nuts and your seeds, you're getting your protein, you're getting your vitamin A, you're getting your vitamin E, you're getting your zinc. So again, this to me, this is the list that I put together. I think these are the top 10 healthiest food for your hair, skin, and nails. All right, that's all I got. All right, what questions do you have? That was kind of fun. Of course, I always feel like I'm talking to myself. At least I got to see some of your faces, so thanks for putting your video cameras on. Any questions for me? You can either get yourself off of mute or put it in the chat. No questions? Let's see if I can unmute you guys. No, I can't unmute you from here. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed the lecture. It is being taped anyway, so if you want to go back and refer to it, go for it. If you have any questions later, you know, relay the messages to Karen and to Jamie, and they usually get the questions back to me. Next month, we're going to do a whole weight loss seminar. We're going to start with COVID-19 and quarantine 15. So we're actually going to start with that issue. And then we're going to segue into, you know, why are we gaining weight and how do we get rid of it? You know, how do we actually follow a healthful diet where we can lose some weight? So hopefully you'll be interested in that and you'll join me next month. All right, you guys, if there are no questions, I'm going to log off. Thank you so much for having me in your living room. Bye, you guys. Thank you.